just jump with the experience you have in any language or any framework, just compare it with Connect Aptos Mobile. You'll be getting it easily. You need to be consistent in what you are doing, because I'm a living proof to consistency and everything, because like I've recently started and the way I'm getting a lot of things easily and everything, it's amazing, to be honest.
Today, we're joined by Saeed, a cybersecurity enthusiast, a blockchain developer, and a founder of AptosRoom based in Nigeria. Saeed has started his blockchain journey with Solidity, but after exploring, he landed on Aptos and is now learning moves to build AptosRoom. AptosRoom is a decentralized proof-of-skill workforce layer, bringing on-chain reputation and trustless talent verification to the Aptos blockchain. We can kind of start with just talking about yourself, like who you are, and what kind of brought you to Aptos?
Yeah, all right. My name is Saeed, and I'm the CEO of Virtual Connects and the founder of AptosRoom. I'm a full stack web developer. I've been a web developer in Web2, and I recently been onboarded to Web3, I think about 2 years now. And yeah, I have background in Solidity, and I'm currently learning AptosRoom.
Very cool. Also, you started like your Web3 journey with Solidity.
Yeah, of course, I was onboarded as Solidity developer. I started there, and with time and with research and everything, I find myself in the Aptos ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, I started with Solidity as well. I think I started my journey when it was 2019. Yeah, something like that. And back then,
about 6 years.
And I'm telling you, like back then, it was so hard to learn this language because there weren't a lot of resources, and the language itself was at very early stage.
I can imagine.
I'm curious though, because you said you were kind of in like the Web2 space, you weren't really involved with blockchain until 2 years ago. What kind of brought you into this space? What made you interested in wanting to work with blockchain technology?
As a Web2 developer, at some point I usually feel incomplete, I can say. And I love the idea of decentralization. I've been in the crypto space for quite a while, but I've not really checked on the technology and everything. So I have built a lot of things on Web2. So I kind of have experience there. And at some point, I usually feel like, I'm missing something out there. And then I went to a community event, Web3 or crypto entirely. And then that's when I got introduced to the idea of blockchain and everything. The person that introduced me, we kind of start with, I was showing him a project we're building on Web2. It's a fintech project. So he was kind of telling me that, it will be easier if this project is on blockchain. And then I was like, I've been hearing about blockchain for quite a while. I don't know, but thank God I've met a builder. I don't know if you can put me through. And then he mentioned one or two things about the decentralization. And it was so amazing that time. I was like, wow, so this thing exists and where am I? So actually that's what brought me into Web3. And I built the projects, the fintech project. Instead of building as a fintech, it's become a DeFi. So I built the project around Solidity at the time. And then after a while, I continue researching. And then there's one thing that kept me curious. It's the entire blockchain. Before I even find myself in Aptos, I've been checking on blockchain technology. I have checked on a lot of other ecosystem, learned a lot about the consensus and the architecture. It's built around blockchain and everything. And then, I end up finding myself on Aptos.
Well, you really went down the rabbit hole there. Yeah, I mean, that's how you learn everything, right? I remember when I was first introduced to this concept of blockchain, and I was actually introduced to this concept by CZ from Binance. So I went to this conference, and he was giving a talk. I had no idea who he was, but he was telling everyone about Binance, and he was talking about blockchain technology in general. And one sentence really struck out to me was that he said, in the next couple decades, this blockchain technology is going to disrupt most industries. He used the word disrupt.
Disrupt, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive word. So I was like, okay, I'm interested. Tell me more. So he went on to talk about the immutability of blockchain, right? The stuff they get recorded on chain, because the chain is decentralized, and when you have a legit blockchain, not some fake blockchain with 3 nodes, and that's when like this immutability comes into play.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're going to touch on this later, but AptosRoom is also dealing with these proof of identity and like proof of skill, right? And this is when provenance and like data integrity is really important, right? And before blockchain, the internet world there was no technology that could verify anything you see online is true, because any data that you see online can be infinitely copied and infinitely altered. It's owned by someone, so whoever owns that data can do whatever they want with it. Exactly. But now we have a technology that lets data be data itself, and it's just a permanent record that people can kind of go back to and attest that, oh, this is actually true. So that's what really interested me into blockchain. Unfortunately, until now, we haven't really seen these kind of use cases play out. And partially, I think, is because the tech wasn't ready. But I think we are now at a stage where tech is ready. Now it's just a matter of bringing this new concept, this concept of whatever that's online, that having provenance, that having integrity. We bring that concept to the world, and now it's a matter of communicating that to people and making people realize that, hey, now there's a way to make sure that you can build stuff online and be able to verify that it's true. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to kind of dive into your Aptos Room. To my knowledge, you started this initiative like quite recently, and I've seen you talk about it on X, and I've even commented on it because I really like the idea. Now it's just a matter of executing and making sure that it works. So tell me a bit about Aptos Room and what it is, and also if you could touch on like what inspired you to build this app. I'd love to hear that as well.
All right. Okay. So let me start with the inspiration. I'm part of some communities here in Web3, and then we have our community in Aptos. We call it Aptos House App. And then what we normally do is trying to bridge the gap of language barrier by trying to break down the technology and a lot of stuff to the level of the people around us. So anytime we like went out to reach out to people, is always one question that people usually ask us, like, how do I start? So we usually tell them, okay, you need to learn a skill, be so good at it, and then maybe find an ecosystem, position yourself well, contribute, and then at the end of the day, you can get where you want. But then the next question that usually comes in is, okay, if I finally learn this skill, if I have the skill, what should I do next? So this question usually comes in, and that's when the idea of job hunting will come, and then you start telling someone that, okay, after you learn this skill, maybe you need to start job hunting. But then I feel like, okay, if as a builder, we can, like I and my team can build something that will be like a starting point for the users we are onboarding on Web3. It will really make sense, in the sense like, let's have a room. That's why we call it room. Let's have a room whereby the moment you step in to Web3, just come to that room. We expect you to have a skill. That's why it's built around proof of skill. We expect you to have a skill. And then the moment you come there, you find a lot of things that you can put your hands on. So that's the inspiration actually. It's from the community, from the feedback we are receiving every time we reach out to the community. That's what inspired us to build Aptos. And then the problem I think we kind of notice is, like I told you, I've been researching some blockchain, some ecosystem and rest before I finally position myself on Aptos. So there is usually a gap, that a lot of the ecosystem usually miss out on, and that's the part of the community. You see a lot of ecosystem building so well on the infrastructure, and then on the community, like how to give back to the community. I can say some are missing out. So a lot of ecosystem, to be honest, doesn't really have a dedicated marketplace where people would be like a starting point for users. Like everybody is after the big tech, and we are talking about the massive adoption, how to onboard people that are not really into it, and then so that they'll get started. The gap that we see, we just say, okay, so if we really build this project, it will really fill that gap. And then the next thing is, right now there are some already existing solutions that are doing something similar to us, but we look at the solutions and push out some problem from the feedback that people are making. A lot of marketplace, a lot of high social project like that. So we highlighted the problem, and then we try as much as possible to implement a solution to that problem. So that is like we are bringing something new, to a lot of ecosystem, but to the already existing solution, we are kind of defining the idea, because most of the existing solutions still feels like Web2 platform. The idea of the decentralization is still not there. People are still complaining that there's still bias in most of the marketplace, and then maybe the project are still complaining that there's the issue of tech credentials and a lot of things. So when they want to hire people, they don't really get to meet the real talent. It's all about hype, or maybe it's all about you having followers and engagement address. So we just be like, okay, if you look around AptosRoom, I think you will see the architecture on the project really focus on three things. And those three things are really solving the three main problems that most of the platform have. And I think that's the escrow, the key card, and the jury. And so we are kind of solving problem to an already existing solution, at the same time bringing a solution that will bring massive adoption to the ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think you guys are really touching on some key use cases of blockchain, at least something that people were excited about in the early days, especially. I think a part of that is identity, right?
Of course.
Because like, how do we solve the identity problem today in the current world, right? We do it through governments. We do it through physical identification paper or documentation, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why we have to do all of these physically is that, again, going back to that original problem that I said, is that everything online is infinitely copyable and editable. So you can't prove anything. But now we have technology that enables that. But nobody has really found a successful way to bring this new capability into a real product, right? So I think that's the challenge that you guys are trying to tackle, and I am excited to see what you can do here. And once you have like this identity feature figured out, and you also brought up the jury layer as well, because AptosRoom is like a marketplace for talent. So people can provide their service, whatever skills they have. If you're a software engineer, you can provide support to work on the project. If you're a designer, you can design something. And at the end of the day, what comes down to is, okay, let's say a buyer and a service provider sign an agreement and they decided to work on a contract. Now, how do we validate that the work was great? And how do you validate that the payment was made, right?
Yeah.
And usually all these things will be facilitated through a centralized organization. But the promise that blockchain brings is that we create the app, the infrastructure that handles this automatically, and it's all done in a peer-to-peer manner, right? You have people that participate in your app as a juror, right? Not as a service provider, but as a juror who helps validate these type of work and make sure all contracts are processed in the way they were agreed with. So I think that's the exciting part. It's a matter of making sure build something that's easily usable and that works. I want to ask you, because you kind of touched on this, you started from the Ethereum world, and then you ended up coming over to Aptos, and you built AptosRoom on Aptos. Tell me a bit more about why you made that change from the EVM world to Aptos. Like, what was the event that made you come over?
Okay, I think a few months back, if I'm to build AptosRoom, it would definitely be on an EVM chain. But like I told you, I'm someone that is curious, trying to be researching on a lot of things. So I was checking on a lot of blockchains. I think there was a time I started researching, that's from Bitcoin down to Ethereum, a lot of things about smart contract, checking on the languages and everything. So along the way, I heard about Aptos. And then there's a member of Aptos Collective around me. He was always speaking about Aptos. So I was like, yeah, let me maybe check on this Aptos. So the moment I research on Aptos to get the white paper, read on it, I check on the Twitter and everything, see a lot of people on Aptos and everything. So I would feel like, yeah, I'm missing a lot, because the first thing that got my attention, I think, was the block STM, the parallel execution. I think that was the first thing that grabbed my mind, that okay. And then the second thing is the price of the gas transaction. Like, I just feel like, as someone that check on a lot of chains, see the prices, compared to what I see on Aptos, I feel like the transaction on Aptos are free. That's how I feel. And then, like, time, I would say that a transaction is processed and everything. Like, it's super fast. So I just feel like, yeah, I need to be on Aptos. And that's when I start to position myself on Aptos. I check on, and then I asked around. I was introduced to Greg. I followed his account. He's a April. I followed his account, and I was going through there, and I finally get to be on the Telegram group, the developers Telegram group, and I've seen a lot of people speaking about Aptos and everything. So that's how, like, I got started as a developer on Aptos.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm Devrel as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Greg is my manager. I have to look good to him. So if you have a separate DM with Greg, tell Chris is great. But I really appreciate what you just said there, because that is exactly what we want to establish, a developer funnel, right? We want to bring people like you who don't know about Aptos, or maybe who are in like these other ecosystems, Solana, Ethereum, they came into Web3 somehow. But how do we bring those people to Aptos? That's the question that we always try to answer as a team. Yeah. And it seems like you first heard about Aptos through a collective member. So that's the community team doing their initiative. And it's amazing to hear that initiative has brought in like distribution in terms of like awareness of this chain. And then you went down the funnel, you learned about the tech, and tech was what grasped your interest in this chain. Yeah. So that's our research team doing their amazing work. And then you came in and you got connected with Greg. You met the Devrel team and you joined the community, and now you're here building something. And it's just amazing to see a real example of that working, because a lot of the times we have to come up with these frameworks based on assumptions and theory. Yeah. And obviously it's not perfect. And right now I see a lot of problems with their developer funnel. I think there's a lot of friction for newcomers when they first come to Aptos, like friction in joining the community, meeting other Aptos developers, also learning resources. Actually, I'd love to get your input on this and your experience. Like when you were learning Aptos and learning Move to write the smart contract, were you faced with any challenges or frictions that you can remember?
Yeah, well, I think when I started that time, if I want to research on Aptos, particularly on Move, I went to look for resources or maybe videos on Aptos Move. That time is always maybe sweet or other move videos. It's not really Aptos Move. Yeah. So at that time, it was kind of hectic trying to look around for what to do. Yeah, you have to be checking on AIs, a lot of things. But I feel like, a video will be much better than AI. And glad recently I noticed you have started working on that. It's really commendable because I usually get a lot of people around me. Like I told you, we kind of have like a community. So a lot of developers wants to give it a try, and they usually told me, okay, so how do they get started on Aptos? And at that point, I would just map out some roadmaps and share to them, because at that point there wasn't like really a video they can go to when I started. But as now, I usually just refer them to the YouTube channel, and I will be like, just go here. You will find a lot of things you'll see, because I've watched some of the videos and they are really nice. The way the explanation and everything, I feel like, if to say I was starting all from the beginning, it wouldn't take much time for me to learn a lot of things. So it's really helping, and even from the people I shared the videos, the link to be honest, it's their feedback is really commending. They are going through the videos and everything, and they are finally getting it right. So I just feel like on this gap, from what I experienced, from the problem I find, I feel like this gap is kind of filled at the moment.
Wow. For people who are watching this video, I didn't pay Saeed to say that. I promise you. That's his own opinion. But you're saying that, and that is exactly why I started the Aptos Developers YouTube channel. I think me also being an engineer, software engineer, a lot of the times when I'm learning a new language or learning a new tech, always the biggest challenge is getting started. And for those who have good coding skills, competent coding skills, once they understand like the high level architecture and have some context on how things work with this technology, they are capable of figuring the rest out. But when you have zero context but zero experience, sometimes seeing someone live code that getting started point, like installing the CLI, installing the Aptos SDK, like setting up the Aptos client for your front end, sending your first transaction, deploying your first module. These things, very simple and easy when you have done it at least once. But for those who are starting to start, it's completely new, right?
Of course.
So that's the gap that I wanted to fill with this channel. And I think we have pretty good, a collection of videos that cover those beginner paths. And I'm really glad to hear that you're finding good feedback on those videos. Thank you for the confirmation. I will continue to make more videos and make sure people have a good time.
We are looking forward, to be honest. We are making an impact, so just keep going.
Yes. And your point on like move, there are different types of move, and that makes it hard. I think in the EVM world, they have Solidity. But they have hundreds of L2s and 100 different chains, but they all use the same Solidity. Whereas in the Move realm, we have 3 different versions of Move. And I'm sure there's more. And the reason for that is the design of this Move language. Move is a very modular language. It's you can literally build blocks on top of this existing base layer, which is the standard library. But then Aptos has built its own framework on top of that called Aptos Framework. And Sui has built its own framework on top of the base Move language. And then other chains has added their own stuff as well. And that's what makes it hard for developers. They think it's the same Move. They come with the expectation that you learn one Move and you'll be able to do everything on all these different chains, but it's actually quite different. I think the biggest difference between Sui and Aptos, what I realized was the object model. Sui launched by completely revamping the core of the Move language and incorporating objects, whereas Aptos has taken the account first approach and then later on added object as a hybrid design. So that's quite a big difference. considering that they come from the same origin.
Yeah,
The move
considering it's the same language, it's a quite difference.
Yeah, so I think we need to do a better job of clearly communicating that the move that you'll be using on Aptos is Aptos move. So we've started kind of clearly saying Aptos move instead of just move to distinguish kind of what version of move we are using. I want to hear, because you came over from Solidity to Aptos, and I'm sure you've noticed a lot of differences and also similarities between Solidity and move. So if you can, what were some differences that you realized when you moved over?
I think the way Aptos move treats, let me say, like assets is quite different from how is it on Solidity. And then another thing I think is more like the difference I see. You understand? There are a lot of things on Aptos mode that are not on Solidity. Let me give you maybe a context with the project I'm building now, AptosRoom. I think if you read on the jury part, you will notice that we want the jury to be selected randomly. So if I'm building something like this, let's say on Solidity, I think I have to use some external heavy tools or some external APIs for me to make this work. But on Aptos, there is this or X randomness. There is a native randomness on Aptos mode that allows us to do that easily. And I'm pretty sure if it's on Solidity, even the cost trying to get a third party to do that for you. So it's quite a lot of difference. And then I think another difference I notice is the storage. I feel like anybody building on Solidity, the moment they try to explore Aptos mode, they will quite see a lot of things they are missing actually. Some people usually say move is hard, but I feel like, though I'm still learning, but I feel like the moment you start as someone with background on Solidity, even if you don't have background in Solidity, because I've seen developers that doesn't even have background on Solidity, but they switch to move. They all have background on C++, some Java and rest. And the moment they come in, they usually say it's kind of easy for them to navigate. So for someone that really has a background on Solidity, I feel like if you compare Solidity and Aptos mode, you definitely know that you are backdated. I'm not saying the Solidity developers are backdated, but I feel like this is my take. Like the moment you start exploring on modes, you feel like Solidity is outdated. Like they need to update something, which I don't really think is possible there. Like you said, on Aptos, you can add a lot of things on the framework.
Wow, you touch on a lot of very interesting topics there. Let's kind of digest one by one. You touched on the on-chain randomness. I was actually really surprised when I heard that Aptos had native on-chain randomness, because that is actually very hard to achieve. And also, like you said, so many applications will need this randomness feature, right? Usually when you're just building a normal program, not like a non-blockchain program, usually you would just like import in some randomness library and you use their API and it just works. But like you said, when a chain that you build on doesn't have this native randomness feature, a lot of the times you'll have to work with an external oracle to bring in that random value from off-chain and bring that on-chain. And that creates a lot of friction. It's slow and it's expensive. It's costly. Exactly. And I'm sure like getting that random value on Aptos is also relatively more expensive than just doing like a normal transaction. But still, considering that gas fees on Aptos is close to free, it's still not going to break your bank. Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting input there that kind of made you consider Aptos for your application. And then you touched on like storage, right? Yeah. That's definitely a big difference in Move compared to Solidity. I think Solidity, all storages are contract based, right? So you create all these. Yeah. But what I really like about Move is that when you create these resources, and for those of you who don't know what resources are, it's like a container that can store data in your contract. What's interesting is these resources are flexible, right?
Yeah.
Like you can define the owner, and then you can transfer the ownership. That is so cool to me. Like the fact that the language supports that by default, right? You can do so much things with that. And now we have the object model where you can wrap these resources inside of an object. So now you have a way to group these transferable resources, these different containers, group them and house them inside of one object. And you can transfer the ownership of that object however you want, therefore transferring the ownership of all of the resources inside of that one object. So now you have this on-chain smart contract language that lets you create these graphs of relational databases on-chain, which is basically impossible in a lot of the other chains because of the virtual machine limitation. Yeah, so yeah, definitely. I think those are some key differences and core advantages of the Move language for sure. Yeah.
And when it comes to security, Solidity is prone to re-entrancy attack. There is this thing like I see, which says I think Move use like, let's say, atomic resources, I think. Yeah. So I feel like even on the security aspect, if you are kind of looking for, if you are more of the security part when building your DAF, I feel like Move is the best when it comes to that. Like from the languages I know, I think Move is the best.
100%. Now let's talk about like the bad of the developer experience in Aptos, because no chain is perfect and we can always improve. And obviously Aptos is relatively new compared to Ethereum. So we lack some dev tools that may exist on the Ethereum world. Have you noticed any tooling that you wish existed but doesn't, that kind of made your development journey a bit challenging?
Yeah, I think there's a tool I noticed that is missing on Aptos, and I've seen it on other ecosystem. It's more like, let's say, an online IDE, because a lot of people, when getting started on blockchain, them using the CLI, it's not really friendly. So a lot of ecosystem have this online IDE, because I'm saying this from the feedback I receive from the people I'm mentoring. So they usually say that, do you guys have an online IDE? Because I don't want to use the CLI. Even though I prefer to use the CLI. But I think recently I noticed there's one project that are trying to do something like that. I saw them in the assembly, I'm part of the Aptos Assembly. So I saw them, they're trying to do something like that. And I feel like, if they can really make it work how they said it will really be useful. Because the whole idea is to make sure that everybody is involved. And then I think the second one, I don't really know if it exists because I've not really find it. It's like, let's say we have a platform or maybe a system whereby there will be like a sample of smart contracts, whereby developers would just go and be giving samples of some smart contract for users to really, it doesn't really matter, it have to be for them to copy, but for them to really see how it's structured and everything. So it will be more easier than they have to write the smart contract and start looking for someone to audit it for them. But they have to say like there's a sample there, and that some people have audited already. So if they really see it, they will feel like, it's more easier for them to use than just starting from the beginning. So I just feel like for my own, these two tools, I think will really make a difference.
Yeah, man, those two are very important. I agree with you. I remember when I first learned Solidity, I used the Remix IDE, right? The online web browser IDE. And you're right. Like not having to set up your development environment and just being able to right away deploy a contract and see, like, play around with it, it definitely improves the beginning journey and kind of hooking developers into the ecosystem and making them want to learn more. I think the challenge, though, is that creating those IDE is not an easy feat, and usually it's very costly, right? So if you have an external team who builds this, they'll need to come up with a business model that'll make them sustainable, right? Because we can't pay for the operation cost forever. So it's a matter of, like, I would love to have an online IDE for Aptos.
Yeah.
It's just that it's really, really hard to find a scenario where you have a team who can build a sustainable business with that.
Yeah.
This is a death
It's
tool at the
really
end.
Like almost all these devs tools, I feel like it should be like an open source project, because I don't see a business model in developer tools, CLI, or all these tools that are needed in building something. Because I remember I have a project. There's a project I once built for an ecosystem. Then they have the online IDE, but people were asking for the CLI. So we kind of have to go back, and then they do not even have, they only have a test net. They do not have like a local net. So I have to go back, study the algorithm they use, and then we simulate the chain. We made a local net for them, and then at the same time, we designed a CLI for them. And now a lot of developers are using it. So we just kind of make it an open source project, because I don't really see a business model in that aspect. That's for me. I don't know for others, but I do not really see a business model. So we just make it, and then we just keep it out. Okay, for the community. Okay, we are developers. This is the experience we had. Let's just create a solution for that and make it open source. At least it will still show as a proof of work that we have the skill there and everything.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I have so much respect for developers who open source stuff. When I first learned software engineering, because I kind of learned on my own. I studied economics when I was in college, so I had zero idea what coding was. Like, I'm telling you, like, I used to think all these programs were magic. Like, I had no idea how they were programmed or created. But here I am being DevRel, crazy world. But when I first learned, I remember in that course them talking about how software development reached where we are now because of open source culture. Like, so many core technology were built on top of open source technology.
Of course.
And at first, I didn't understand why people would do that. It's not easy to create these things, right? It takes time and effort to create these software, but they just open source it, and they get the joy out of it when people use the things that they created, right? And they actually enjoy helping others, seeing people thrive using their technology, and that's why they do it. And I absolutely love this culture within the open source community. And I want to see more of that in the Aptos ecosystem as well. I think currently we don't have that culture, to be completely frank. And I want to change that. I want to have that, and then it's partially why I'm doing this initiative as well, like meeting real developers who are building on Aptos and hearing your story, what you think, what your experience has been, because I don't have all the answers. I'm just a guy who is just like behind the computer trying to come up with a solution. But you guys are the ones who are actually building. You guys are the one who are actually bringing the value here. So your input is the most important thing. And I want to see you guys meet other like-minded people, right? I've had 2 calls. You're the second one I'm doing this call with. And I would love for you to meet the first person that I've talked with. He's the founder of Atlas. He's building like AI-backed staking platform. I would love for you guys to connect on our developer community channel, talk about different ideas, talking about how to best utilize the technology and dev tools that we provide, providing feedback to our team, helping each other out. I want to see a community of developers where they're helping each other out rather than it being just a Q&A, a one-directional interaction with three people on the dev team.
Yeah, we use the feedback to improve in a lot of things. So yeah, I will definitely look into him. I think I saw the last podcast X account. Yeah, so I'll reach out to him and then we'll connect, and then we'll see how to come up with something. Because as you said, Aptos is still growing, and so as the technologies and everything. So there might be something that you want to build around, and you might not really find it there, but the moment you take feedback, yeah, okay, so something is missing, or I want to do something, but I'm finding it difficult to do it. That's why I feel like I usually tell this to a lot of devs starting, and that, okay, the first thing is you really need to join community. You can't just think to build alone. You have to join community. You, even if you are not speaking there, even if you are not talking, but if you are going through the message, you might find someone asking a question, and from the feedback that other gives him, you definitely get one or two things like that. And then if you are building and you kind of have an issue, it's not all the time that you just jump to AI and start looking for a solution. Sometimes the solution is just in the community. Instead of you taking your time, starting from the beginning, doing research and a lot of things like that, you can just come to the community, drop your question. It doesn't have to be the dev, to be honest, because I've dropped a lot of questions. A lot of people have responded to me, which are those developers like me that are exploring the ecosystem. So it doesn't really have to be the dev. Anybody can just respond to.
Yeah.
So the community is just the starting point.
100%. I agree with you completely. I think partial reason why we haven't really seen that happen is because we haven't done, our team and the Aptos team hasn't done the best job of providing an environment where people can mingle with each other. I've noticed that right now our developer community is quite fragmented. We have a Discord channel, we have a Telegram channel, we have a GitHub discussions. Like and I'm sure people are so confused on where to go to meet people. So we are aware of this problem, and I am working very closely with our ecosystem team and our community team to address this problem. So I want, ideally, have a central hub, one place. That can be Discord, that can be Telegram. It's still to be decided, but one place where it's not just the Nigerian community. Nigerian community should be connected with the Indian community, with the Vietnamese community, and the United States community, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that we have these local communities, and I think it's an amazing system because local community is the best. But we also need to provide a way for these local communities to connect with each other as well.
With each other, yeah.
Right? Exactly. So I want to do that. I want to make sure we create that system and environment for you guys so that you guys can just make friends and meet people, find partners, find jobs, right? That's kind of the end goal that we are thinking of. So I will, now that I know you, I will actively asking for your feedback and your opinions on all of this, because really what we're trying to create is for you guys, right? So we want to make something that you guys want and where you guys will thrive. So
it really makes sense, because after joining Aptos Assembly, I spoke to a lot of people all around the world, and I was like, wow. So if you are not really there, you wouldn't really feel like there are other people out there doing exactly the same thing with you. Yeah, you just feel like, is this thing even possible? Is it going to work? But speaking to a lot of people, asking them that, okay, what's your experience? What's your motivation? And a lot of things really makes sense. So I've made a lot of friends in the Aptos Assembly. Yeah, I think some are in the US, some in South Africa, some in India, and other countries like this. So it's really important to have a one-stop hub, I can say, or one room that a lot of people can just connect, make friends, learn from each other, and a lot of things like that.
We're at time. I absolutely love this conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. Like, you had so much cool things to say, and this won't be last. We should continue to talk on Telegram and stuff. But on a closing note, I guess, if there's anything that you'd like to share with people, like developers specifically, who haven't tried Aptos yet, if there's anything that you'd like to share with them and share what your experience has been and why they should take a look at Aptos and give it a try. And after that, just share with the viewers here on how they can follow you and AptosRoom and get connected with you guys as well.
All right. So let me start with the AptosRoom parts. All our social on X. Yeah, if you just go to the X, I think it's AptosRoom. If you just search AptosRoom, you'll find us on X. And then from there, I think to easily get access to the community, I think there's a link on our bio, which is like the landing page. And if you click on the link, it will take you to where you submit your email. You scroll down, submit your email to be on the early wait list. And then there will be the Telegram community link and the Discord server there. So you can just join there. And yeah, there are really good people in our server to keep up the conversation and everything. So if you really want have question or really want to explore on AptosRoom, you can just go to our X, and from there you can just join all the social. And then for the developers, I think what I would like to say, and I usually told a lot of developers around here that okay, if you are not in Web3, I think the easiest way to get started, don't really stress yourself, because I feel what we are actually doing over here, let me just say this, we are kind of on a mission to bring technology to like undeserved areas that are not aware of technology. Even in our Web2 days, that was what we were actually doing. We usually tends to bring digital technology to all villages and everything like that. And then we have teach a lot of people. And then now that we are in Web3, because like when I get into Web3, I kind of onboard all my team. I told them that, yeah, let's go. I'll find a better place for us. And then from there, we are really kind of onboarding a lot of people. It doesn't really have to be developers, but like we're onboarding a lot of people. So for the devs, I usually told them that if you already have a background in another language or in another framework that you are working with, to easily learn on any language, let's say mode, I think you should just compare your knowledge from the other language, like the experience you have with the move. Let's say you have experience with, let me say, if you are good in C++ and then how to write program on C++, so the moment you come to just get it easily, since a lot of people by code right now, they usually use AI and rest. So just ask the AI, since it's the personal teacher now, ask the AI to teach you, okay, you can use the prompt that is, okay, I have background in C++, in just teach me by comparing C++ and Aptos mode. So trust me, it works because it has worked with a lot of people. I've teach a lot of people this and it has worked for them. Because instead of you putting something new in your head, it's just like your brain is trying to learn something that you already learned, but in a different way. And like most of the language are all the same. A lot of people usually say that if you really learn one programming language, switching to the other is not hard. So just don't really waste your time trying to start from hello world. I feel like, you don't really need to do that. Just jump with the experience you have in any language or any framework. Just compare it with Connect Aptos Mobile. You'll be getting it easily. So this is just like the advice I usually give to developers out there. And then to everybody in Web3, it's just what I would say, since I'm a developer, you need to be consistent in what you are doing. Because I'm a living proof to consistency and everything. Because like I've recently started and the way I'm getting a lot of things easily and everything, it's amazing, to be honest. Web3, it's really big, and if you just position yourself well, learn one or two things, and then be good at it, and then you need to be consistent. It's not something that you start and then you just think, oh, you really, really, really need to learn. You really need to read. just be learning. Like you can't just come and then think of, let me just stay without trying to learn. You have to be learning a lot of things. It's worked for me. It's worked for a lot of people. And yeah, I'm really, really saying this, that if you are consistent in whatever you are doing, it will really work actually. Because if someone told me that, yeah, I will join Aptos, then I will be in Aptos Assembly, I will even build project on Aptos, I will really feel like, yeah, it doesn't sound something that I can do. But now, like, yeah, I've gained a lot of experience from the time I joined up to now. And it's all because I was consistent. I keep up, I show up in the community, I talk. If I see something, I usually talk, and I'm very curious. The moment I see something new, I tend to look at it.
Very true. Thank you so much, Saeed. Thank you so much for making the time today. Really, I enjoyed our conversations, and hopefully the viewers as well will get a lot of insight from this. So thank you, Saeed, and I'm excited to see what you build with AptosRoom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much.